There's this powerful, almost invisible force that connects a leader's every single action to the culture of their entire organization. It can make or break a team. And today, we're going to unpack exactly how that works.
So, let's just start with a question for you. What really separates a good job from a truly great one? Is it the paycheck? The perks? A lot of the time, the real answer is something way less tangible. It's that invisible force we call organizational culture. To really get a handle on that force, the author Gene Kim gives us this brilliant metaphor. He talks about leaders creating good social circuitry. I want you to think of a leader as the architect of their organization's wiring. When that circuitry is designed well, everything just flows. Energy, ideas, and effort all come together, pointed toward a common goal. And this gets us to the absolute core principle here. What leaders say, what they do, and maybe most importantly, what they tolerate, that sets the standard for everybody else. They are, whether they realize it or not, actively designing the culture every single day. And here's something that's so important to get. Culture is not an accident. It doesn't just happen. It's a direct result of leadership behavior. And that makes it a leader's core responsibility to get it right. Because a culture is going to form one way or another. The only question is whether it's the one you actually want.
Okay, so for saying leaders are the architects, what's actually in their toolkit? Let's get practical and explore the 4 essential behaviors that really define effective modern leadership.
So here's our roadmap for the next few minutes. We're going to look at leading by example, then growing other leaders, leading change, and finally, adapting and innovating. Think of these as the 4 pillars that hold up a thriving, high-performing culture. All right, first up, leading by example. This is all about being authentic. People follow leaders whose actions actually match their words. It means you have to be a constant learner, you have to be transparent to build trust, and you have to always act with integrity, especially when no one's watching. The bottom line is, leadership is shown, not just declared. But a great leader's impact doesn't stop with their own actions. Their true legacy is in multiplying their impact. The best leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. This means trusting people enough to push decisions down, offering personalized coaching, recognizing good work when you see it, and showing that you genuinely care for people as individuals, not just as cogs in a machine. And of course, you need those new leaders because the world is constantly shifting. That's why our third pillar is leading change. A leader can't just command change to happen, they have to inspire it. This is about painting a clear and compelling picture of the future, building a team of champions who believe in it, and then actively getting rid of the barriers that stand in the way of progress. And to really inspire that kind of change, you need our final pillar, creating an environment where it's safe to adapt, to innovate, and to challenge the way things have always been done. This means focusing relentlessly on the customer, encouraging experiments, learning from data, and never, ever settling for good enough. Okay, so we've talked about what leaders do, but what's the end game? What kind of environment are they trying to create with all this effort? Well, the goal is to build what's known as a generative culture. Let's break down what that actually means. Before we dive in, let's just ground ourselves with this super simple but really powerful definition from Dr. John Kotter. Culture is simply the way we do things around here. It's the collection of all those unspoken rules and norms that guide what people do when nobody's looking over their shoulder. So what does that ideal state, a generative culture, actually look and feel like? Well, it's a place where trust and cooperation are high, and where risks are shared. It's an environment where people aren't punished for bringing bad news. Instead, new ideas are welcomed, and failures are treated as opportunities to learn, not opportunities to blame. But culture can feel a little foggy, right? Kind of hard to put your finger on. So how do you actually spot it? Well, you look for tangible clues. You can see it in who gets hired, the kind of language people use, and most importantly, how the organization handles both success and failure. These are the real observable signs of that deeper social circuitry. Okay, this brings us to our final section, and honestly, this might be the biggest aha moment of this entire explainer. If you want to change your culture, where do you start? The answer is probably not what you think. This quote from Dr. John Kotter says it all. Let this one sink in for a second. Culture change comes last, not first. You don't start with inspirational posters and new mission statements. So what on earth does he mean by that? He means that culture is an outcome. It's a result of the systems and the practices you have in place. You can't just command a new culture into existence. But what you can do is change the actions, the behaviors, and the processes that created in the first place.
and this is the path to real, lasting change. It's actually a pretty logical sequence. First, leaders have to intentionally change the systems. How work gets done, how it's measured, how it's rewarded. Then, over time, people see that these new ways of working are actually successful. And only then does the culture, the way we do things here, start to shift to match that new reality.
So as we wrap this all up, we come right back to our central theme. Leadership and culture are a feedback loop. They're totally inseparable. Leaders shape the culture, and then that culture in turn shapes the next generation of leaders.
All right, so if you're going to walk away with just a few things from our explainer today, here they are. First, leaders are the primary architects of culture. Second, their work is built on those 4 pillars we talked about. Third, the ultimate goal is that high-trust, generative culture. And finally, the big secret. To change the culture, you have to change the practices first.
And that brings us to the final question, and this one is all about you. Whether you're a formal leader or not, every one of us has influence. So what's the one behavior, that one small change in practice that you are going to model tomorrow to help architect the culture you want to be a part of?